Hello, my name is Raven Peterson. We'll be conducting a neurological assessment today. This is my patient. I'm going to start by asking my patient for her permission to do this assessment and record it and post it online for a school assignment. Do I have your permission?
Yes.
Okay, good. So the order of this assessment, I'm going to start with cognition and then go to the cranial nerves and then the cerebellum, sensory system, motor system, and then deep tendon reflexes. So for cognition, I'm going to start by asking her her name and date of birth. Can you tell me your name and date of birth?
Anastasia 042596.
All right, and can you tell me where you're at, why you're here, and today's date?
I'm in my house. I'm here for your video, and today is the 18th of February.
Okay, good. So she is alert and oriented ×4. Next, I'm going to tell you 3 words. And I want you to remember them. Okay, so rock, sand, water. Go ahead and say them.
Rock, sand, water.
Okay, remember them because I'm going to come back and ask you for those 3 words again. Do you remember who your 5th grade teacher was?
Mm-hmm. Was Mrs. Cook.
Mrs. Cook, good. So her remote memory is intact. Her speech is good. I'm looking at her face. All of her facial features are symmetric. And there are no abnormalities at rest or when she moves her face. So next we're going to go on to the cranial nerves. So we're going to start with cranial nerve 1, which is the olfactory nerve. And to test the olfactory nerve, I'm just going to block one there and have her smell some hand sanitizer with the other. And if she can smell it, then cranial nerve 1 will be intact. So I'm going to get some hand sanitizer. And go ahead and smell for me. Good? Can you smell?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the opposite. You smell?
Mm-hmm.
Good. So cranial nerve 1 is intact. Cranial nerve 2 is optic, and the optic nerve regulates visual acuity. And so to test visual acuity, I will present her a Snellen chart, and then also do a visual gaze test. So to start that, I'll grab my Snellen chart, and I'll have my patient close one eye. And go ahead and read the lowest line on the chart you can read.
EFPTC.
Good. Now switch eyes. Go ahead and read the lowest line you can read.
EFPTC.
Good. So her vision is 20/20. Next, I'm going to check her visual fields. And so with this, I'm just going to have her close her right eye. And then tell me when you see my hand.
Now.
Good. Now close the other eye. And do the same thing.
Now.
Good. So that is testing for the optic nerve, and also for the optic nerve, you're going to want to look at the optic disc and cup, and looking inside the eye is going to tell you if she has any conditions that can compromise her optic nerve. So I'm going to have you just look at a point on that wall for me and stare it just straight back. Okay. I'm going to stare at the wall, stare at the point on the wall over there for me, just over my ear. Good. Okay, so I saw her red light reflex. I saw her optic disc and optic cup. The optic cup was approximately 1/3 the size of the optic disc, and I did not see any cotton wool spotting or nicking. Next is the oculomotor, or cranial nerve 3, which is oculomotor, and what oculomotor regulates is pupillary changes, and then all extraocular movements besides medial and downward. So for this test, I will just check her pupillary response to light. Okay, her pupils are equally round and reactive to light. go ahead and stare at the top of this pen for me. Now stare at the wall. And they are also accommodating. Her pupils were at a 2 on constriction and 4 at dilation. So next cranial nerve I'm going to be testing for is cranial nerve number 4, which is the trochlear, and what that regulates is extraocular movements as well, and primarily medial and downward. So for this test, I'm going to have the patient just follow my light. Okay, good. And that's also testing for cranial nerve number 6, which is abducens, which regulates lateral movement of the eyes. So all of her extraocular movements are intact. She's not having any nystagmus. Next, I'm going to test cranial nerve number 5, which is trigeminal. And trigeminal is going to be sensory and motor. And to start with the trigeminal assessment, I'm going to have the patient push against my hand, opening the jaw against resistance. I can feel the TMJ joint go to an open and close. Excellent. And then the second part of this test, it'll be the sensory part, and I'm going to touch her with a sharp object and a a soft object in her forehead, cheeks, and jaw, and have her tell me what she feels, sharp or soft. So close your eyes.
Sharp. Soft. Sharp. Soft. Soft. Sharp. Soft. Soft.
Okay, good. Cranial nerve number 5 is intact. Now we're jumping up to cranial nerve number 7, which is the facial nerve. I'm going to test this. I'm just going to have the patient for the upper 7s. I'll have her squint your eye or lift your eyebrows up. Now close your eyes. Good. And then smile, frown, and then puff out your cheeks. Good. So cranial nerve number 7 is intact. Next is cranial nerve number 8, which is acoustic. And so for this, I'm just going to whisper a word into each of her ear and have her repeat it.
Baseball.
And then actually, will you cover that ear like that?
Apple.
Okay. She had no problems hearing, so cranial nerve number 8 is intact. Cranial nerve number, and also with the cranial nerve number 8, I can do a Weber test and a Rin test, and so the Weber test is just checking for unilateral hearing deficit. So I'm going to strike the tuning fork, place it on her forehead, and ask her, do you hear that in one ear better than the other, or both equally?
Equally.
Good. And the Rin test is checking for air conduction versus bone conduction. I'm going to strike the tuning fork, place it on her mastoid bone, and let me know when you stop hearing this sound.
No.
Can you hear the sound now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so she heard the frequency, the vibration with air conduction after bone conduction. So meaning air conduction is greater than bone conduction. Cranial nerve 8 intact. Cranial nerve number 9 is the glossopharyngeal, and cranial nerve number 10 is the vagus, and I can assess both of these by listening to her talk, but I'm also going to have her open her mouth and say ah. So open your mouth and say Will I say ah? Okay, so her uvula raised midline when she said ah, and she speaks without any difficulties. So cranial nerve number 9 and 10 are intact. Cranial nerve 11 is accessory muscle use. So for this, I'm just going to have you lift shoulders, good, turn neck, side to side. Excellent. So cranial nerve number 11 is intact, and then cranial nerve number 12 is hypoglossal, and that controls tongue movement. So I'll have the patient open her mouth, stick out your tongue. Okay, good. cheeks. Okay. She has no issues with tongue movement, so cranial nerve number 12 is intact. Next, we're going to assess the cerebellum function, and that really regulates coordination and balance and ability to walk and whatnot. So I'm going to have the patient stand up. Well, actually, go ahead and sit down first. Before we stand up, I would have you take your hands and slap them on your lap as fast as you can go, both sides. Good. Now you can stand up. Go ahead and scooch all the way to the wall. So the first part of this test is just the get up and go test. I'm going to have you just walk to right here, normal walking. Good. Go ahead and turn around, and on her way back, we'll go, come on over here. Stand right there, okay. Now when you walk to me, walk with one toe in front of the other, touching heel to toe. Excellent. Next I'm gonna have you walk that way on your heels. Good. Now walk back on your toes. Good. Now I'm gonna have you stand right here. I'm gonna have you close your eyes and hold out your arms. Just stand there for 15 seconds. Okay, good. Next I'm gonna have you hold out your hand upward, close your eye. And what I'm looking for with the first test was to see her balance, if she was taking any uncoordinated steps. And this pronator drift test, I'm looking to see if she drifts away from this supination or not, and she does not. Okay, next part of the test is the sensory test, and with the sensory test, I'm going to be doing checking for proprioception, and with this, I'm just going to have her close her eyes. I'm going to move her finger up and down, and I'll have her tell me if her finger is up or down. So close your eyes.
Down, down, up, 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 down.
Good. This side.
Down, up, down, down, up.
Good. Next I'll do the two point test, and what I'm doing here is I will take your hand, and I got the bobby pin here, and I'm going to either touch her finger with 1 point of the bobby pin, or I'll touch her finger with 2 points of the bobby pin. So you feel 1 prick or 2?
2. 1.
Good.
1. 2. 1.
Good. Next, I'm going to check her stereognosis, which is the ability to identify an object that is placed in your hand without actually visualizing it. Close your eyes. Go ahead and tell me what's in that hand.
Cotton swab.
Cotton swab, correct. Okay, tell me what's in this hand.
Paper, bobby pin.
Yes. Excellent. Next, I will check her extremities, upper and lower extremities, for sensation. And so again, I will just do the soft touch versus the sharp touch using a cotton swab and at the end of a paper clip. So go ahead and close your eyes for me.
Sure. Soft. Soft.
Good. Feeling going further, that's fine. Okay, close your eyes.
Sure. Soft. Sure. Soft.
Good. Okay, moving on to motor tests. I'm just going to be testing the strength of her biceps, triceps, hamstrings, quads, hip adductors, and hip adductors. So to do this, I will just have the patient go ahead and pull on my arms. Good. Now push on my arms. Good. Now go ahead and push out of my hands. Good. Pull here on my hand. Good. Go ahead and push outward on my hands. Pull inward on my hands. Good. Now go ahead and squeeze my fingers. Excellent. Now hold your fingers open like this and don't let me close them. Okay, good. So hand strength, grip strength, upper extremities, lower extremities, all major muscle groups were 5 out of 5 strength and equal bilaterally. Last, we will move on to her deep tendon reflexes. And so we're going to check her bicep reflex, tricep reflex, patellar tendon reflex. So go ahead and stick out your arm for me. Good. I'll check this side. Excellent. I'll check your tricep. Excellent. So all our reflexes were +2 and brisk. Well, let's